a good amount of folks have indicated between moderate and minimal. Okay, thank you all very much for doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and close down the poll here. Thank you all for participating in that poll. And with that being said, what we will do is go ahead and begin with today's presentation. So again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Shielding Mental Health and Wellness in Uncertain Times. My name is William Moore, and I'm with OJJDP's National Training and Technical Assistance Center. And as your technical host, I would like to take a couple of minutes to discuss a few features of the Adobe Connect webinar platform and provide a few announcements to keep in mind. Please note that this webinar is brought to you by our colleagues at the Innocent Justice Foundation. Their contact information is located on this slide. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. This webinar will be linked to our NTTAC YouTube channel for viewing at a later date. Please note that you can also view archived webinars on our NTTAC YouTube channel. For the transcript or even supporting materials, you can contact the OJJDP NTTAC Help Desk. For those wishing to download a copy of important documents and resources related to today's webinar, you may do so by locating the handouts pod directly above the chat area. Here, you will find the webinar PowerPoint and an FAQ for webinar participants that will likely address any technical related questions. Simply click on the name of the file and then click the download button. At the end of today's presentation, there will be a Q&A session where the presenter will address some of your questions posed during the presentation and questions that were submitted prior to today's webinar in the registration. Please type your question into the chat box as they arise. Now, I know many of us are practicing social distancing at this time, so but I know some individuals may be joined with one or maybe even two other individuals, less than 10. If you are viewing in a group, please take the time now to type in the total number of additional people who may be in the room with you today. If you're viewing by yourself or alone, there's no need to type anything at this time. However, if you are viewing with maybe one or two additional individuals or any of additional individuals you're viewing with, please type in the total number of additional people at this time. Also note that attendees will receive an automated thank you email with an included certificate of attendance. If you are viewing in a group, and only for those who are viewing with multiple individuals and would like to receive a certificate for those individuals who are not signed in, you may fill out or complete the group validation form that we have and send it to OJJDP@usdoj.gov. Again, that's only for individuals who may be viewing in a group. All other individuals will receive a certificate in a thank you email after today's webinar. I'd now like to turn it over to our moderator, Beth Medina, for today's presentation. Thank you.
Thanks so much, William. Hi, everyone. It is wonderful to see such a cross-section of the country joining us today, and even some of our neighbors to the north. So welcome our neighbors from Canada, really great to be here with you. The Innocent Justice Foundation has been working with Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force teams for over a decade. We are their training and technical assistance provider for their officer wellness program. We have a grant through OJJDP to present training in trauma mitigation and education about mental health and wellness and prioritizing that. So we wanted to bring you today some information about how you can stay mentally well and healthy during this unprecedented time, and we work with wonderful mental health providers across the country and with, in conjunction with the commanders from our ICAC task force teams to provide support for their folks. And we wanted to bring you some of this information that we provide for them, and it will speak directly to them, but also to many other affiliated agencies. So having said that, I will remind you that you can find out more information about us on our website, and you can will be able to also view this and other material at shiftwellness.org that may be of assistance to you. So we're going to do our best to answer as many questions as we can, and please feel free to type in questions. We have some that were given to us ahead of time. We're going to do what we can to get to all the questions once we give you the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Carol.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Brusca. I am the embedded mental health provider for the New Mexico Attorney General's Office Crimes Against Children Task Force, meaning that I am the person that is their resource for mental health services, and I also serve the affiliates as well. So during this time, since all of our folks are working from home, I've been in contact with them typically about 3 times a week, just making sure that they're doing okay, and if they have any needs, that I can address those for them. So out of the presentation that I did for them, this is what the product of that. So I have been trying to give them presentations on wellness once a week, just so that they can remember what they need to do to keep themselves safe, since they're at home looking at exploitation materials. And as a consequence, I thought that this might be beneficial for a larger group, so I shared it with Beth, and we're doing it today. I'm also the clinical director for an intensive outreach for homeless people with mental illness in the Albuquerque downtown area. So I'm also out there, even though I'm working a lot from home doing training and working with our ICAC. I'm also out there on the streets with our the people experiencing homelessness in New Mexico. So I've got this dual role right now, and I can see how it's affecting people differently across the country, or across the city, and across actually the country as well. We're doing some trainings through Innocent Justice for all of the ICACs. So we're trying to make sure that we can get the word spread as far and wide as we can to keep people mentally healthy, and I'm doing their best. So let's get started. So today what we're going to talk about is how social distancing is changing the work environments for the ICAC professionals, that's the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force professionals, because historically what I preach to our ICAC across the country, and particularly in New Mexico, is do not take work home with you. I preach, keep your work at work, keep your home at home, don't let there be any cross-contamination. We don't want your brain making that connection. And so I've had to make a great shift in how I'm supporting people now, because not working from home is no longer an option. We want to talk about identifying the worry and the stress that can arise from all of the recent changes, and how to cope with uncertainty, new work from home situations, and increased caseloads, because we're hearing a lot of information from everyone that those people who are taking cyber tips, gathering the information about child exploitation, their caseloads have increased, and the information they're getting in has increased enormously. So we're trying to help do what we can to mitigate the negative effects. And then we're going to look at ways to enhance and utilize wellness strategies while practicing social distancing. So social distancing, it's, shifting work environment. So it used to be that people would, like I said, they would work from work and they wouldn't bring their work home. And now it's work from home concerns. And there's all sorts of concerns around that. It's what do we do to protect our family if we're having to look at materials and there's other family members around? What do we do to make sure that we're taking breaks and we are that we're doing our own mental health practices? And then what else is going on with respect to we're stuck at home, which means for many ICACs across the country there can't be any warrants that we're doing. So we're gathering all of this information about child exploitation, but we can't do anything. So there's this feeling of helplessness and hopelessness, because we know that we're already swamped with cases, and now we're getting more behind, and then when we go back, it's going to be even more. So that's a big shift, and it's a big concern. And with respect to the caseloads, it's what I was talking to our ICAC this morning. They were saying that their plan is to, the minute everything opens up again, they're going to go stand at the judge's door and ask for the whole entire day so they can do warrants all day long. So they were being facetious, but the fact of the matter is that there's huge numbers of warrants that need to be taken care of so that they can get out and do the work, and the judges are already going to be behind. So all of those concerns together, it's just increasing their stress and their frustration. And then the isolation from coworkers. Even if there's people that we don't necessarily hang out with outside of work, certainly when we're at work, we socialize with them. Even if they're not our best friends, it's just nice to see their face. That's one of the reasons that I've been trying to connect with our folks on Zoom once a week, so that it's supposed to be for training, but it's actually for training and socializing. They all get on and show pictures of their pets or their kids or whatever else is going on in their life. It's just a way to feel connected, because during this time, they do feel very disconnected. And there's feelings and frustrations around being efficient. You know, you can't get your job done when there's so many roadblocks to accomplishing things. If you're doing forensics, you can't be in your lab. You know, then there's the difficulty of what do you do now? So with at the Attorney General's office, our folks aren't even allowed to go into the office without special permission. So any work that needs to be done has to be done from home, or you have to get special permission to pick something up and then bring it back home. So, and then, you know, I was talking today with them about how do you have concerns about what the future holds? They said that, you know, their biggest concern is that there's going to be a huge amount of work to get done. But that's always the concern, and now it's just going to be doubled or tripled. And I asked them, are you concerned because they're in a very small office space? And they said no, that, you know, they felt like they'd all been social isolating and felt like they were all going to be okay, and that wasn't their big concern. They're just chomping at the bit to get back to work so they can start working cases. So there's, you know, with respect to with anxiety, 24/7 news coverage, and this, again, this isn't just for our ICAC folks, this is for everybody. Every day there's a new number that pops up on our screen here in Albuquerque saying how many new cases, how many new deaths, and what counties they're from. So it's like this never-ending barrage of negative information. And then nothing to give us much comfort level for certainty, because it's one day it's this symptom, and the next day it's this symptom, and the next day it's this, and then, you know, then sunlight can help, and then sunlight can't help. And today I was just reading about you shouldn't take your dogs to social environments because there's a chance that they can pick it up. And so it, you know, every time you hear something, it's something new, and it's not something that's more reassuring. It's something that's even scarier than the last time. So the things that we're recommending is try to avoid sensational news coverage. You know, try to decide that maybe you'll listen to the news once or twice a day, and that's it. Because if it's some huge thing that's going on in the news, there's going to be somebody else that's going to contact you to let you know. So try to remember that, you know, that there's going to be changing news all the time. So if you take 15, 20 minutes at the end of your day or the end of your work day, you know, 5 o'clock or so, to look at the news, you'll be able to catch up on everything. There are concerns for people across the country that isolation can lead to loneliness. So if you are one of the people that's on shutdown or on stay-at-home orders with other people, that's a whole nother set of issues. But if you're by yourself, that can lead to loneliness, which can lead to depression. So older individuals are often more affected by this than our people, younger people. So the thing to do is try to interact with people over the phone or through FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, any other social media thing that you can do. I know in our family, I come from a very big family, so we can't all be together during this time, so we're trying to be creative. We're getting on Friday nights, we're having Zoom nights where we're playing games together. So last week it was Cards Against Humanity. Tonight we're going to be celebrating my nephew's birthday online. But keeping those connections is so important during this time. I know that Beth will joke that she's been doing happy hours and doing a lot of baking. So, you know, like many people I hear, she's saying that the concern is becoming an alcoholic who's overweight by the time this is over. And many people are saying the same thing. It's like, you know, they would typically connect with somebody and and then, you know, maybe just go for a walk or a bike ride or something together. But now it's, well, we can't connect, so let's meet for happy hour. That's fine as long as you're being cognizant of your drinking, so that that is not a new issue that arises after the fact. But, you know, there's concern around family not being together, and what does that look like, and our family, your other family members safe, and how can we make sure we're staying connected while staying safe. So worry, I love this saying, worry does not empty tomorrow of sorrow, it empties today of strength. So our brain uses worry as a way to get through uncertainty. It's kind of a way that we can problem solve, and that's wonderful as a tool. But when we get to the point where we're not problem solving related to the worry, that's when we need to kind of figure out how we can let that go. So if we worry about something and we can come to a resolution or a plan, then the worry was useful. But if it's just worrying, and then that worrying causes more, and you're perseverating, and it's just getting to this rabbit hole of things to think about and worry about that's going to increase your anxiety, that's when the worry goes from helpful to a hindrance. So, you know, do you have a problem in your life? No, then why worry? If you have a problem in your life, then can you do something about it? If you can't, then worrying isn't going to help it either. So think of the things, the areas where you have power and control, and then the rest of those things, do the best that you can, but then let it go, because it's not something that you can do anything about to help. It's a form of thinking about the future that leaves you feeling anxious and apprehensive. So when we worry about what might happen, at this point we don't have any control over what might happen. And I think that's never been brought more closely to home than during these times. We are at the mercy of a virus and our government who makes decisions. And so there's only a few things that we have control over. So those things that we have control over, those are the things we can focus on, and everything else we can prepare for the best we can. But during this time, it's so important for us to be flexible and able to adapt, because otherwise we're just going to be very upset, anxious, and nervous. So worry can be problematic if it stops you from living the life you want to live, or if it leaves you feeling demoralized or exhausted. So when you get to the point where it's just your worry, and at the end of the day you haven't accomplished anything because you've been distracted by worry, and you're exhausted mentally and physically, that's the time to say, okay, there are some things that are useful for me to worry about, but the other things I just have to let go. So, of course, we have an intolerance of uncertainty. We don't like to feel uncertain. We like to know what to expect. We like to know how we can manage what's going to come next. And being in a position of not knowing makes us feel very uncertain. So it involves situations that are ambiguous, novel, and unpredictable. And in our current situation, all of those things are the case. It's a time where we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know how to change things. We don't know what we've got control over. So, of course, we're going to have some uncertainty, and that doesn't make us feel good. And all the only thing is certain right now is that we're in a very uncertain situation. So right now, many of us are feeling that things are uncertain, and it makes us it makes it very difficult for us to remain calm. And we get to the point where we have no tolerance for this uncertainty. It's like we just want to scream, give me something that I can rely on. Give me something that is predictable. Give me something. So that's why we kind of lean in towards those people and relationships and things that have historically brought us comfort. And that's the time to do it, is now. So again, it involves the tendency to react negatively to uncertain situations on an emotional, cognitive, and behavioral level. So when we're feeling this way, then on an emotional level, we get more anxious. On a cognitive level, we end up thinking about things, but not coming to a productive solution. At a behavioral level, we might do things when we're having this intolerance that might make us act more angry, more agitated, more annoyed. We can then have less patience with other people because all of the uncertainty we're feeling makes us feel like we're off. We're not centered anymore. We're kind of off balance, and we're not sure what the next steps will be. So behavioral reactions to uncertainty, sometimes people will isolate because they can't even interact with others because it's too anxiety provoking. Sometimes there's irritability. What we've seen here is panic buying and hoarding. So in the beginning, I think there's now, at least in Albuquerque, there's toilet paper and paper towels and things back on the shelves. There's still no Clorox wipes or hand sanitizer or Lysol spray, but there's plenty of toilet paper now. And so why is it? Why do people panic buy and why do they hoard? Well, one of the reasons that people do that is because if one person sees something buying something, then the next person thinks, wow, they must know something that I don't know, so I better buy it too because they might have more knowledge than I do, and I don't want to be the only one left out. And honestly, one of the reasons that people hoard or panic buy toilet paper, and I found this interesting, is that people feel like there's only so many things that they can do at this point, and making sure that you're feeling good about how you look and how you appear is very important. And what the research shows is that toilet paper makes us feel like we have the ability to be clean. It makes us feel like we have the ability to be presentable to others. So we want to keep those things close. So it's a comfort thing. It's kind of like, you know, we eat comfort food. We want to make sure we have comfort things. Fortunately, there wasn't a rush on toothbrushes or toothpaste, but toilet paper is the thing that we really feel like we need in order to feel clean and make ourselves feel like we're presentable. So the interesting thing, though, is that the average person in the U.S. uses about 100 rolls of toilet paper per year. Now, since that statistic, I read that statistic, I've been kind of keeping track about how much toilet paper I use, just because it sounds like 2 rolls of toilet paper a week is kind of a lot. And in our house, each of us does not use 100 rolls a year. We're using about a roll. So you figure even if every individual had 52 rolls, they'd probably be set for the whole entire year. But we don't think in terms of that when we're feeling like there's never going to be more and we have to get enough. And honestly, today in the U.S., there's 150 companies that are making toilet paper. So realistically, hoarding toilet paper is not a necessary thing because we're going to have plenty. We're going to have plenty of toilet paper. So intolerance of uncertainty, it can lead to depression. From the emotional standpoint, it can lead to depression and anxiety. If we feel like we can't tolerate what we don't know and we have no control or power over that, then it can lead us to anxiety and depression because there's nothing that's predictable for us. It's a very common desire to control or avoid uncertainty, and right now, all of us are in the same situation. So there's times in our lives when we as an individual might have some uncertainty, but right now across the country, across the world, there's a level of uncertainty that we haven't known in a very, very long time, if at all. And the worry can increase the uncertainty. So when you start perseverating on all the things to worry about, then what it's going to do is it's going to increase our feelings of uncertainty. So maybe we started worrying that we might not have enough toilet paper, and then suddenly we're worrying, well, what if we run out of something else? And then that worry feeds itself, and so suddenly then we're worried about everything, and then it's going to increase our depression and our uncertainty and our anxiety. So why do we have intolerance of uncertainty? What is the motivation? The motivation is to seek certainty. So when we're feeling uncertain, we were motivated to seek certainty and safety. And really, certainty is very connected to our feelings of safety. The behaviors that we exhibit are worry, we plan, we check, we avoid, we seek reassurance and routine and habit. So those are the behaviors that we exhibit to get back to that status quo, to get back to that feeling of certainty. And like I said, worrying is useful if it has a meaningful end. So if worrying motivates us to do something that we can then complete, that's great. But if it worries just goes on and on without any completion or end, that's not going to be productive. Planning can be helpful if we can actually have a plan and carry it out. Checking, so maybe, maybe we're doing a daily check of how much of something we have. I was trying to bake some bread and I was looking for yeast and there's no yeast on the shelves, and so part of my checking is maybe when I go to the store, I check to see if there's any more yeast. But if I'm obsessively going to 20 stores every day just to find yeast, that's when it becomes a problem. And then avoiding is also a reaction to uncertainty. And seeking reassurance and routine and habits. So if there's things that you have done in the past that have brought you a sense of certainty, a sense of comfort, and those are habits that are useful and productive for you, I would say definitely try to re-engage in those habits. That's why it's so important to reconnect with family members, because when we're trying to be resilient during these times, the social connection and use of social connection is so important for us. So seeking routine, habit, and relationship is going to be very, very useful tool in creating that. What about workload? So workload is absolutely increasing for everyone we're talking to. The problem is that there's so many tips coming in, and we know that there's probably more and more cases that are going to be coming in, and it's not, we don't necessarily have the ability to handle all those. The work has the potential to invade our personal space. So what I'm telling our folks is try to set your workspace up so that it looks as close to your workspace at work as possible. If you're sitting in your favorite comfy chair when you're at work, throw a sheet over it or over that chair so that after we're done with this, you can take that sheet away and your brain doesn't make that connection between your favorite chair and the work you're doing. Well, a lot of the folks that I'm working with say they're listening to the same type of music. They're doing what they can to recreate those same feelings. You don't want to wear your favorite comfy pajamas and then sit down and do working on exploitation cases, and then your brain makes that connection between your comfy pajamas and the cases you're working. So increased concern over work encroaching on the family? Absolutely. So how do you make that separation? Do you make sure that you're isolated in a room by yourself? Do you make sure that you're just not allowing people in that space? But make sure that there's something that you can do to keep that separation. And then not having all the normal resources, which I spoke about earlier. If you're trying to do your job and most of your stuff is only accessible to the office, it's going to be very frustrating. Isolation from peers, we talked about that as well. When you're not able to connect with those people, it can really throw you for a loop. So how do we embrace uncertainty? We do that by seeking new experiences, because if we seek new experiences, there's going to be that moment of uncertainty, but then the feelings of accomplishment when we're able to work past that and achieve something. So try to think, what are the new experiences I can try when I'm from home? Can I learn a new hobby? Can I, and even if it's a hobby like doing, playing with a yo-yo or doing a Rubik's Cube or something, any new experience that you can try that isn't going to make you feel too uncomfortable is going to help build your resilience, and it's going to help build your feelings of capability, because you're going to be able to accomplish that. So the behaviors are going to be being open-minded, being curious, trying to be spontaneous. I know during this time it's kind of difficult to do that, but what can you do in your own home environment to accomplish those things? And then being willing to tolerate discomfort, just accepting that during this time it's uncomfortable, but we're going to get through it. So perception really does matter. How you think about quarantine and work from home is crucial. So if you can change your attitude from a place of this is really awful and I hate it and I don't like the uncertainty to, well, maybe I can look at this time in terms of I might not ever have an opportunity to hang out with my spouse as much as I can now, or really reconnect with my children because I'm helping them study, or maybe during my lunch break, instead of going to get something at a restaurant, I can clean out a closet. So try to change your perception and see how you can turn the negative into something more positive. And then, the words we use set an emotional tone. So if we are saying things that if we're saying things that, like, this is a really negative thing, then it's going to be a negative thing. If we can say, well, this is a challenging time for me, not this is an awful time. This is a new challenge that I can overcome, or this is going to be a great adventure that I can see how I can get through. So thinking in terms of what we're being forced to do and what we won't have to access to creates a sense of lack, frustration, and powerlessness. So instead, try to flip that and think in terms of what are the things that are happening now in a positive way that you might not ever get an opportunity to do, but you're getting that because you're at home with your family or you're at home getting work done or whatever the case might be. So what can you do to cope? Accept that uncertainty is part of life. Embrace the uncertainty as a challenge, as an adventure, as opposed to something negative, and rethink your attitude towards uncertainty. Changing our perceptions, you want to recognize you might not have an opportunity like this again. So like I said, if you're spending time at home with your children, how can you turn the time together into positive memories? So what you'd like to do is when the kids get done with this, then and they look back on it when they're adults and say, remember that time when we were all home together and we got to XYZ? Try to think in terms of what kind of positive memories can we build during this time, because we might not ever have another opportunity to connect with those that we love like we have right now. So refer, what can we do to cope? Refer to reliable sources of information. Again, like I said, that you don't want to look at the news all day long, but if you need to find out what's going on, look at the CDC or the World Health Organization, because those should be the most reliable sources of information. And try to do that only once a day. Is there any good to come out of being home? I know most everybody I know has been doing a lot of cleaning and cleaning out closets and getting rid of things, and now the problem is they've got all these bags of things ready to take somewhere but no place to take it yet. Appreciate the people and things in your life that you might have taken for granted. And then remember, this really will not last forever. It might feel like it's going to last forever, but it really will not last forever. So what do we have control over? Take protective measures, keeping our distance from others, trying to follow whatever your state guidelines are. So practice good hygiene, stay at home, establish work routines. It's very important that try to set a beginning and an end time at work. Don't just get up and work the whole entire day until you go to bed at night. You want to make sure that you're setting those boundaries with yourself and starting work at a certain time, breaking for breaks in between throughout the day, and then setting time for lunch, and then ending at your normal work ending time. Reaching out for support as much as you possibly need to, and then limiting your interaction with media, because for the most part, that's not going to help. So focus on the things that we can do. Reaching out, helping someone who's more vulnerable. By doing that, it's going to take your focus off yourself, and it's going to help someone else out, which will then help to actually increase some oxytocin and the feel-good hormone and make you feel better. And then set reasonable boundaries around working from home. Stay in touch with your team through virtual meetings. Just to connect, just say, hey, let's catch up. Let's have lunch together. Doesn't mean you have to talk about work, but just so you can see their faces. And then staying in the moment, practicing mindfulness is so important. If you can stay in the moment, then the future and the past won't seem so overwhelming. Managing your workspace, so create a completely separate space for work. It's very important if you're working with caustic material that you want to make sure that you're doing that. So you want to do what you can to make that separation. Like I said, if it means putting a sheet over your favorite chair, if it means setting up, if you're working from your dining room table, well, put a tablecloth on that table for the day, and then at the end of the day when you clear the table for dinner, take that tablecloth off. Again, it's making sure your brain is not making the connections between your work and your home and intermixing those, so doing whatever you can to try to keep those things separate. Remember to turn off the sound if you're viewing images or video, so try to limit the number of senses that are being impacted when you're having to view materials if you're doing ICAC work. So if you're looking at images, don't listen to the video and vice versa. You want to limit the number of senses being impacted. And then take extra breaks, because right now during this time, we're already at a high stress level, and then having to do stressful work is just compounding that. So take extra breaks to reset. Get up, walk outside, take 10 deep breaths in and out. Just go experience the sunshine outside, or listen to the wind blow in the trees, listen to the birds, touch the grass, whatever you can to do that reset, so then you can get back and feel better about your situation. Try to keep a set schedule, so take breaks throughout the day. Set a start and end time similar to regular workday. So like I said, you want to get up, you want to have breakfast. I know a lot of us are not really getting dressed for work, but try to put on some clothes that maybe you only wear when you're doing chores or something. So then you're not putting on your comfy clothes, and your brain's not making that connection. Put on some clothes that you don't mind if you have to throw away, because you want to keep that separation in your brain. And then, eat lunch away from your workspace, so that maybe you can go into another room and have lunch with your coworkers virtually. And then, connect with your family members and your team. So whatever that looks like. Several weeks back, my friend and I decided that we wanted to have lunch together, so we met in a parking lot, and she was in her car and I was in my car, and we could actually see each other's faces without a screen between. So that was lovely, and we just sat and ate lunch. It wasn't anything big. We brought our own lunch. We weren't close enough for anything, but it was just a matter of having a different environment and reconnecting with people that we care about. And, intentionally make sure you schedule that time and make a commitment to share activities online together, whatever that looks like. There's games you can do. There's just having an opportunity to sit and chat together. What I've been encouraging people with children to do is see if you can have the grandparents or the aunts and the uncles spend some time virtually reading to your kids, because it keeps your kids connected to their relatives, and also it gives you 5 minutes break to maybe run to the bathroom, brush your teeth, comb your hair, get ready for a meeting, whatever the case might be. Try to spend time outdoors every day. The reason for that is because you want to have your 5 senses positively impacted, because that's going to help you reset. If you have the opportunity to take your laptop outside to work, that's great. I tried that the other day, and I had to come in because the birds, I was trying to do a Zoom meeting, and the birds were so loud, they kept interfering with our meeting, so that wasn't working. Eat your lunch outside, whatever you can do. Meditate, cook, relax. I've been doing a lot more cooking during this time, because it's a way that I can connect with my friends. So we'll do some cooking together online. We all decide on a dish to cook, and it's as if we're all in the kitchen together, and that's been a really great thing. And then, again, when you're cooking, you're positively impacting your sense of taste, your sense of smell, your sense of sight, the sense of hearing. So all of those things are being positively impacted. And, see if it's helpful if you keep a journal, because that might be something that you can just write down the things that you're grateful for, which is going to help when you're looking back or having not such a great day, and it's going to increase the oxytocin when you think about what you're grateful for. And then again, try to keep your boundaries. We can't say that enough. So keep focused. Use noise-canceling headphones if you're feeling like the noises around your house are distracting. Don't turn the TV on, because then you can end up watching TV while you're working, and then things just don't seem to flow as well. Create a to-do list. This makes your tasks more manageable. So in the morning, create a list of the things that you need to take care of. And then at the end of the day, you can look over that list, and it'll be a way to prove to yourself how much you've accomplished. And then set a timer for hourly breaks, even more so now, because when we're at home, we might feel guilty. I know I've talked to a lot of people that say, I feel like I'm working even harder than I would, because I feel like I need to make sure I get my 8 hours in. Well, realistically, we know when we're at work, there are times during the day when maybe we get up and we talk to a coworker about a sport, or we talk to a coworker about our kids or something. So realistically, are we working exactly 8 hours every day? Some of us are working more than that. Some of us are working less. But, it's going to be the same for home. Maybe someday you get in 9 hours and someday you get in 7. Again, making sure that you're up for your break and stretching, drinking some water, getting a healthy snack. Try to be calm. So as Zen Master, that I can't pronounce his name, Han explains, when the crowded Vietnamese refugee boats met with storms or pirates, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person on the boat remained calm and centered, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive. So try to be the calm in your own life, in the lives of your family, in the lives of your coworkers. If you can be that calm, that energy can flow throughout your surroundings and your environment and help to keep everyone else calm. So one of the things that's really great that you can do easily from home is to practice belly breathing. And the reason I bring this up is because, A, it's a very, very simple thing to do that you can do standing, sitting, lying down, whatever the case might be. But the other thing is that there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that runs up and down your spine. And when you're under a lot of stress or fight, flight, or freeze, that's the nerve that that gets triggered. And so if that gets triggered, then it's gonna feel more anxious. So all you need to do really is take some deep breaths in through your belly, and don't let your shoulders rise, but do all of the breathing through your belly, and then exhale and pull your belly in. Do this 10 times. If you need some examples of that, YouTube has plenty of examples on how to do belly breathing, but it's a wonderful quick reset that will absolutely help you get your brain back on track. So here's the instructions. Begin sitting on a flat surface. Place one hand on your belly and another on your chest, so then you'll know where your breathing is coming from. Breathe in slowly through your nose, feeling your stomach push against your hand. Then you're going to exhale with your lips while tightening your stomach. And then, so at first, practice this for 5 to 10 minutes, about 3 or 4 times a day, and then gradually increase this, and over time, you will go back to that type of breathing. Belly breathing is the breathing that we had when we were newborns, but as we grow older and experience more stressful events, we begin to breathe much higher up in our chest, which is not, it's not healthy for us and it's not effective. So getting back to belly breathing as a practice will help us keep our calm, but also help get a better breathing habit in place. So we have many, many different links listed here. If you're going to get the copy of this presentation, you'll get these. So we've got some coronavirus information. So you get the CDC. There's a link on how to talk to your kids about the virus. We have some technology things for teams. So you could use Zoom, Slack, GoToMeeting, Hangouts. And then there's some things that you can do, some virtual team building, because if you're looking for something to do with your team and you're not sure what to do and people are just kind of staring at each other, but you want to be connected, try one of the virtual team building activities. We've got some technology tools for parents, because we know that realistically right now it's very difficult to be a worker and a parent and all of those things combined. And what I've been telling parents when I'm talking to them is, think about when your child is in school, how much time realistically out of the 6 hours a day that they're at school are they actually doing lessons, right? So we figure they've got to have recess, they're going to have lunch break, there's going to be the times when the teacher is giving the lesson, there's going to be the time when the teacher is trying to get the class back to be focused. So realistically, your kids are probably not getting 6 hours of intense study every day. So if you're doing the best that you can, for all you know, they might be getting a better education than they would at home. There's virtual field trips that you can take your children on, and then there's outdoor activities that are virtual. We've got some numbers here that you might want to keep on hand. If you do start to feel like things are too overwhelming and you're feeling suicidal, please call the suicide prevention line or the crisis line. Those are both things that you can do just to get that support. And then here's our contact information, my contact information, our shiftwellnessorg.org information, and Beth's information. On our Shift Wellness webpage, there's lots of other resources that are available to people if they would like them. So please, please take some time and go look at our website and see what you can find. And if we have any questions, audience questions, please let Beth know. Carol,
I have a few questions here that were sent in early if you'd like to take time to go over them now. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. There's been really great interaction on the chat, and it's wonderful to see. So one of the questions we got is what type of daily habits can be established to help in these times, personal and family related? You covered a lot of those, but I'm just wondering if you want to go back and maybe highlight just a few.
Certainly. So if you want to make sure that you're staying, I mean, it's at this time staying connected to your family, but then also another thing that I'm hearing a lot of is if you're with your family and you're not typically used to being with your family all the time, that can be kind of a stressor as well. So for those people that are wanting to connect with their family, one of the things that I'm encouraging everyone to do, but in particular have your children do, is write an actual letter to somebody. Put it in the mail, let that person receive it, and then get one back. It's if you have the time to sit and write a letter to a loved one or a friend, it's so nice to be able to connect in that way, and they can get that back, and it's so much more intimate than just getting an email or something. Having something in your own handwriting is a great way to connect. Another, like we talked about, Zoom is a way. You can FaceTime people. My nephew's birthday is today, so we're going to be doing a birthday parade. So since we can't all get together in the same place because we're not supposed to have more than 5 people in the same place at a time, we're going to be, all of my siblings are getting together, and we're going to have a little parade in front of the house so that and with waving and honking and balloons, just as a way to celebrate him. And then everyone will be eating together and celebrating his birthday that way. So there's lots of ideas out there on how to connect with people virtually. And then if you're in an environment where you're not used to being around your loved ones and it's getting a little bit stressful, now is the time to work on communication skills. Now's the time to say, I need space by myself, so can I have the bedroom by myself from 2 to 4 so I can just have some alone time? Because many people are finding that they want to connect, but then also there's people that are finding they need some alone time and it feels like they're not getting that. So from both ends, and really being flexible and being able to just tolerate the uncertainty and the newness. If couples are already having problems, this is just going to be exacerbated by not having the ability to run away from those problems. So now's the time to get into some virtual therapy. There's Talkspace, there's 7 Cups of Tea, there's BetterHelp. All of those companies are doing online therapy. I'm sure there's others that are as well. But those companies, I think you can do couples therapy or individual or children's therapy. So if you feel like that's something that you need, know that you can still do that. And as a therapist, I know that many people in New Mexico are actually doing therapy online now. So therapists that if you're seeing a therapist or you have in the past and you want to reconnect, see if your therapist will either do telephone therapy or virtual therapy via some kind of platform. Any other questions, Bill?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about self-compassion and the importance of having self-compassion around this, especially as it relates to being overwhelmed with workload and with family responsibilities and worry?
Sure. So I just was talking to some folks the other day about self-compassion, and we talk about self-care all the time, but we don't necessarily talk about self-compassion. And self-compassion really is different from self-care in that self-compassion is allowing us to accept ourselves as we would our best friend. So if there's something that our best friend did, they made a mistake, they got a little bit agitated, they did something, but it was our best friend, we would show them that compassion and we would say, it's okay. During this time period, things are going to be more stressful and you might act in a way that you wouldn't normally. But being gentle with yourself, having that ability to be gentle, having that ability to tolerate that we're not going to be perfect, accept that there's going to be things that aren't going to go exactly like we would like, not beating ourselves up for it, just saying, yes, we love ourselves even though we're not perfect, because none of us is perfect, and all we can do is the best we can do, and treating yourself like you would your best friend. So more so than anything else, how can you treat yourself like you are your best friend, and doing that in the same way that you would. So when you're talking to yourself, talk like you are talking to your best friend. When you're treating yourself or contemplating something, a decision that you made or a mistake that you made, think about how you would talk to your best friend, and then start doing that for yourself, because that's where self-compassion begins.
Yes, that's great. Thank you, Carol.
Uh-huh.
I also see quite a few questions about concern around the educational impact on children and how to get yourself out of too much worry about that.
Right, and I'm sure that most of the parents are worried that either their children are going to get behind or they're going to, they're not going to be doing as well as they could. But obviously, we don't know what that's going to look like on the other end. But there are lots of resources out there. We had some listed, but there's other resources that you can look into. I know that many schools are putting out packets of information and then having teachers available there. There's Khan Academy is a great website that you can learn all sorts of things. If you're having problems teaching your children math, look at Khan Academy, because they do things in a wonderful way that's very easy to understand, and let your kids learn from Khan Academy. Don't try to take on every chore yourself. See what other experts are in the on the web that can teach your children to do things, so that you're not carrying that full responsibility, and so that you can feel like they're staying educationally where they need to. So again, we don't know how things are going to turn out. We don't even know when schools are going to open up again. But do the best you can. Use your resources as much as possible, because that's going to help you have a sense of relief. And maybe one of the things to do is, if you've got a fourth grader, what are some of the typical fourth grade standards that you can expect? I know on Amazon you can buy books, workbooks for each grade level. So maybe try getting a workbook and seeing if your children can do the work at that level. And if not, then maybe well, I need to focus a little bit on this during the summer. But, it's, again, we can do the best that we can, and that's all we can really do.
Right. I know that one of the things we do in our house with my son is when he's doing stuff on government or whatever he is in history, he's in middle school, we try to find a movie or something that we can watch that kind of goes with that, so it allows us as his parents, we're not the teachers, but his teachers, but we can, in that sense anyway, I guess we are teachers, but we can talk about maybe different aspects of whatever it is in history that he's relating to. If they're talking about civil rights, we can watch one of the many fine films about that and talk with him about it. So there's a lot of things we can do as parents to support kids learning in ways that isn't just being, lectured to or given work in a workbook as well.
Yes, exactly.
I also see some questions here about just the high stress of jobs and how to make sure that you're kind of doing some activities to help relieve that stress. And I know you talked a lot about that in here, but maybe you could give just one or two of your top things that you would try to get across to folks about how to kind of easily reduce stress almost immediately.
Right. And so some of those are just like I talked about, breathing is one of the perfect things to do. Another thing is if you are, whether you're home by yourself, whether you're home with your pets, whether you're home with your family, getting outside once a day and taking a walk is going to be great for your physical well-being, for your mental well-being. It's going to decrease stress. If you're able to take a walk with your kids or your spouse, that's going to help bring some bonding and socializing as a unit, where you can talk about particular things that might be bothering you, or what you can plan for once everything, once we're stay-at-home is over. So I think that that's definitely an opportunity to decrease the stress right away. But absolutely doing some breathing, just getting up and doing a reset. If you want to, we've got some on our website. We've got some techniques that you can try. We've got a whole sheet of techniques to try to decrease stress right away. If you want to do something, it's called the 5-4-3-2-1. That's a real great quick reset to do. So what you do is you try to notice 5 things around you that you can see, and 4 things around you that you can hear, and 3 that you can smell, 2 that what am I missing? 2 that you can touch and 1 that you can taste. And it doesn't have to be, it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It can be, if you're in the kitchen, it can be 5 things you taste and 3 things you hear. It doesn't have to be specifically only those 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's using your 5 senses and knowing what's around you so that you can ground yourself and come back to the present. Another thing that you can do to quickly reset if you're feeling very anxious is to put your hand on your heart and feel your heartbeat. One of the research has shown that one of the first and most important relationships that we have in utero is obviously with our mother, and the hearing of her heartbeat is a very calming, relaxing thing to us. So when we can reconnect with our own heartbeat, it has that same effect. So if you put your hand over your heart and you listen to your heartbeat and you do some slow, deep breathing, that's going to reconnect you to the heart, which is going to help slow your breathing down. So those are some really some quick things to do. You know, I just saw somebody said walking is great unless you live where it rains every day. Well, one of the things that we've done throughout our house then is we've actually had a parade. So we get, you know, all of us together when we're not working. You can get some pots and pans or some kazoos or something and march around your house. Again, it's having to be innovative and doing what you can. If you've got no kids in the house and you just want to get some exercise, put on some music in the kitchen and dance around while you're getting ready to cook. Just getting your body moving. There's lots and lots of apps available for physical exercise. I know there's lots of gyms and things that are putting out classes online so that you will have access to those classes. But try to be a little bit creative in what you're doing to make sure that you're able to get that exercise in.
That's great. Someone just shared on the board, and I just love it. Maureen shared about baking is science and math, and journaling about the cookies that you baked can be part of English. I love that. That's creative, and it's wonderful, and it brings that connection that's so important with your kids or anyone in your family or that you're living with, and then provides opportunity, a learning opportunity. So I love that. I have friends who did we're doing some of the baking challenges, like if anyone is familiar with Nailed It, they were doing some stuff from Nailed It, and they would like try to make a toilet paper cake, and then it was just really fun for them. So we are we don't have much time left, so I'm gonna just say here, thank you very much, everyone, for coming and spending some time with us. And please contact us if you need anything and use our website for resources. We should be having some more webinars coming out, so look for those, and we are happy to support you in any way we can.
Thank you. And turn it over to you, William.
Yes. Thank you very much. This was very helpful information, and thank you so much to our moderator, Beth, and our presenter, Carol, for such helpful information, especially on a topic that's very much so needed during this time. Before we wrap up and you all go, I do have just a few last-minute announcements for everyone to keep in mind, starting with the first slide that we have up here. If you would like to reach out to OJJDP's NTTAC, you can contact us through the website link here, or you can even sign up for our listserv through the sign-up link here, where you can receive more information about wonderful webinars like this. Also, be sure to check us out on Facebook at OJJDP NTTA. If you'd like to get in contact with OJJDP, you may contact them through the link on this slide, including their telephone number to the help desk and including the website here and the email address. You can also sign up to receive the OJJDP Juve Justice listserv as well. Do you have a training and technical assistance need? Well, if so, please be sure to submit a request for help via the OJJDP's TTA 360 platform. You may access the platform through the link on this slide. As a reminder to everyone, please note that this webinar will indeed be recorded or was recorded, but will be placed on our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel can be found at the link on this slide. If you like any supporting materials, you can contact the OJJDP NTTA Help Desk as well. Please take a moment to review the disclaimer here. And finally, join us for our upcoming webinar that we have on May 19th with another OJJDP NTTA provider. The Learn More link is live here, and the registration link is also live as well, where you can register for this webinar too. And finally, we have one last poll question for everyone remaining. For those of you who are left and on for today's webinar, we want to know, how do you plan to apply the information from this webinar in your work? There's many different selections that we have here. You can select more than one item here, but just let us know, how do you plan on applying the information that you've learned during this webinar to your work? I'll leave this up here just for a couple of moments, just so folks can complete this information. But I will say good afternoon to everyone. Please stay safe and please stay healthy. Have a great afternoon and a great weekend. Goodbye.